up, War Rapport family? It's your man Ike Jones here with another edition of Building Rapport. Today, we have none other than the good Dr. Chantel Tremitiere coming in here to talk to y'all. Listen, I can't wait to get into this one. Former Auburn basketball great. Listen, we ain't gonna just call her a basketball player. Former Auburn basketball great, from on the court to being a coach, doing all of that stuff. Currently doing her thing in media. Man, we got to get in here and get this conversation popping. Y'all welcome to the Rapport, the good doctor.
What's happening? War damn eagle.
Yeah, you already know out the gate. Let's get it out the way. People already
Right.
know. All right, so let's talk about first and foremost, um, of recent, right? You've had the internet popularity, of course, on TikTok and the auntie situation. So like, let's talk about how that whole situation got started with you getting popularity on. Because listen, I'm not on TikTok. I ain't TikTok at all. But I've seen the
Right.
videos. But how did that really become a thing for you?
It actually started in Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was coaching kids and giving them private lessons, and I would tell them at the end of their lessons, at the end of their sessions, look, we're gonna make a half court shot. If you make it before me, your session is free. And nobody would ever make it. And
Mm,
so actually when I was teaching at Auburn, I talked to the kids. These were juniors and seniors, and I was like, "Y'all, what y'all know about TikTok?" And at the time, they didn't really mess with TikTok too much.
mm,
And so I was talking to one of them. They were like, "You should do these shots like on TikTok." So I started doing it with then defensive line coach Rodney Gardner's kids, who daughters were my nieces, are my
mm-hmm.
nieces, and started doing some stuff. And so people online on videos in the comment section were like, she can't do it with a men's ball, or she can't do
Oh,
this, she
okay.
can't. And then other people in the comments who were like, don't come after auntie like that.
Right.
And so then when I took on the moniker auntie, and
Yeah.
it just I just happened to be able to make a couple shots, and people liked them, and they liked me shooting the ball inside Dick's Sporting Goods, and then
Yeah.
it took off from there.
Yeah, I hear that. Now, see, I don't even know why they were chat. Like, they just must not have known you was a baller for real. Like, so let's talk about ball, right? So,
Right.
Auburn University, 3 consecutive trips to, and make sure I ain't getting your history wrong. 3 consecutive trips to the women's championship game, right?
Right.
You
Right.
played with Ruthie Bolton, right? You went to the WNBA.
Right.
Now you this I'm gonna be honest with you, like, big Auburn fan, always. I wasn't really into the women's hoops when I went to Auburn. I was down there for a couple of years. I wasn't
Right.
into the women's hoops for real, for real. But when I started picking up on you was WNBA time, because when the league launched, I was super excited about it because I just like basketball. So I'm like, man,
Right.
okay,
Right.
let me just go see what's going on. And I was like, oh, I found out you was an Auburn person. I was like, okay, now I got to root for Sacramento because I was coming out the gate. I was really big Cheryl Swoops fan. But then when
Right.
I was like, she an
Everybody's
Auburn
a
alum.
Cheryl Swoops fan.
Hey, she can ball though. Hey, listen, she's a
That's my
baller.
girl.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I was
that's my
like,
girl.
okay, we got Auburn folks over here on Sacramento. Let me go ahead and so I was like, okay, she can hoop for real. Like, it ain't no game around here. I saw the actual skill out there. But talk to me a little bit about what it was like with that inaugural season with the
Right.
WNBA, and kind of how that changed the trajectory of women's sports in your opinion, especially for basketball.
Right. uh, obviously it was special, being only one of 80 women around the world to be in the inaugural league, and knowing a lot of the women beforehand, and getting the chance to compete against them again, and some for the first time. I coached against Cheryl Swoops, and now I'm guarding her.
Mm,
And so I'd love that opportunity. I love being able to be Ruthie Bolton's point guard, because when we were
hmm.
at Auburn, she was the point guard.
Right.
And so, hated Tennessee growing up, and or at Auburn, and Bridget Gordon, would turn out to be one of my favorite teammates
Mm,
in Sacramento. So, it was an amazing time. I think that it was different back then, right? It was more about the camaraderie. Like, we were friends throughout the whole league.
hmm.
And loved playing in front of the Sacramento crowd. We had about 17,000 a night, and I mean, it was amazing.
That's dope.
But we always knew, all 80 of us knew that the success of the league, and if it was going to last 25, 26 years so far as it has, it was going to be on us to
Right.
start it. And so knowing that it's still going, and now the popularity is starting to grow, and players are going back to the kind of swag and energy that we had. I love it. And
Hmm.
I'm just so happy that they're getting paid more, and getting more marketing dollars. So a win is a win for us.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about compensation when it comes to women's athletics. I want to hit it from a couple of different angles. I want to talk about collegiate stuff right now because we have NIL, but then
Right.
I want to talk about the professional league and just ways in which that's grown and where you want to see it go. So let's start with collegiate stuff. And
Right.
that wasn't a thing when you were at school. Like y'all wasn't making no money, right? But now NIL is in place. What do you feel needs to happen from an NIL standpoint specifically for the women athletes to make sure that they're getting what they need to have when it comes to that?
Right. I mean, I wish I would have been an NIL athlete
Right.
back when I was at Auburn. I think I'd have been a millionaire. With a Snickers NIL deal, because I ate a Snickers at halftime and
Hey.
at the beginning and a halftime of every game. And just being on the point guard of a team going to the national championship 3 years in a row.
Right.
Um, but the game has changed, and if you want to look at NIL, especially for women, especially for women's basketball players, you got to look at what Dawn Staley's doing down there at South Carolina. They
Hmm.
built an NIL program within the University of South Carolina athletic department, and
Hmm.
so she's made sure off the top that each one of her players come in getting $25,000. So
Mm.
you know, you don't need $1 million, and in some cases, $3, $4 million as a collegiate athlete. You don't need that kind of money, but
Right.
you know what? I mean, they deserve it, and I'm happy for them, and I just hope that it just doesn't get out of hand,
Right.
right? And that kids are going to certain colleges because of NIL deals,
Hmm.
because then college college athletics is not going to be as pure as it has been. And it's almost going to be like a JV
Right.
professional sports, and that'll
Yeah.
be sad.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, we're gonna go into the women's part, but I want to hit on something that you just talked about, and kind of like the nature of collegiate sports. You just had a different kind of energy when you loved playing for your school, right? It was a
Right.
different kind of pride as opposed to playing for a check. But what was the reason why you came down south to Auburn? Like, why did you decide Auburn University? Because y'all were doing your thing, but what made Auburn the place that you wanted to call home?
It wasn't at first. I knew nothing about Auburn.
Hmm.
I had told all the colleges, Louisiana Tech, Tennessee, like I told all the colleges no, because I wanted to go to Temple.
Mm.
I wanted to go to Temple only because I wanted to be an actress, and I knew that
Mm.
that's where Bill Cosby went to school. Um, and obviously, different Bill Cosby back then,
Right.
um, but the day before, I was scheduled to go on a recruiting visit, and the weekend before, we were playing in our state tournament, and that morning, I had to go to work at Burger King, um, and I mean at Hardee's, sorry, and my biological mother showed up out of nowhere,
Mm.
and it shook me to my core. Had a horrible game. We lost by 2 because of a charge from me at the end of the game, and that night, Temple called me. Now this was at the end of the year, it's April. I mean, March. So, you know, everybody's already signed and whatever. Um, and so that night, Temple called me and basically said, we don't want you anymore. And
Mm.
so, now we're almost going into April, and I don't have a school. And so my mom, my adopted mom, happened to work with someone who coached with Coach Champy back in the day.
Mhm.
She sent him my tape, sent it to Coach Champy. Coach Champy just happened to need a point guard, and he came up and saw me play in a couple tournament games, all-star games, and asked me to come down. And that's when I found out about Auburn. Didn't know it was in Alabama. Had never been out of the state, and when I went there, I mean I loved it, And
Yeah.
so, I knew the second I stepped on, I was going. I didn't tell him, Coach Champion, until, after I left, but yeah, I fell in love immediately.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Listen, fortuitous for us, I guess, when all things are considered. But I'm glad that you've enjoyed your time at Auburn, and of course, your career has been amazing since then. But
Thank
let's
you.
talk about the moving from the collegiate side into the professional side, because again, the money's changed, right? It ain't the
Right.
same kind of money when inaugural season WNBA came around.
Absolutely not.
Right now, these women are getting paid. I mean, it's not comparable, right? Like we're not going
Right.
to pretend like they're getting even in the same stratosphere as the NBA, but still, you can make a living being a WNBA player
Right.
right now. So talk to me a little bit about where you feel like the women's sport is going and what things need to happen to really start to get those women into the notoriety space that they need to be in.
Right. I've been on the other side of, I've been in reality. And the
Mhm.
reality is, you know, back then, I mean, it's tough for us, a lot of us former players, to look at some of these players now and hear them complain about, oh, we need to be on chartered planes, we need to
Right.
be this, we need to we're only getting paid $225,000 a year, so we have to go overseas. Like, nah, I mean, there was some of my teammates were getting like $18,000
Right.
my year, and that's not like 1960, right? We're not talking about like
Right.
1960, and so at the end of the day, still professional athletes. And then you look at, we were averaging more fans than they are now. Like,
Right.
you got to get some fans in the stands, and
Yeah.
however that may be, you got to get some fans in the stands before you can start, complaining about, what's going on in the state of women's professional basketball. But I just think it needs more marketing, continued marketing. How they're going now, would love to have every team hire somebody that during the off season, their sole job is to get these players, speaking engagements, camps, anything that they don't have to go overseas. Not
Yeah.
only not have to go overseas, but that they can stay in the city where they play, and and get a little marketing and push people to the game. So
Yeah.
that's what I'd love to see.
I mean, I think that's an interesting thing, like the thought process that you need to quote unquote go overseas to play because
Right.
you can monetize your personal brand in so many ways right now that could
Absolutely.
even be more lucrative than your playing salary would be.
Right.
So it's just like you said, I think that there needs to be a place where we understand the power of a brand, and and you are more than just a basketball player. And a lot of women athletes have figured this out. The men have
Absolutely.
been doing this for years, right? Like
Right.
the women are starting to understand my brand is powerful. Let me monetize it and figure out a way I can do that, and so you don't have to do all of the other stuff. But yeah, I feel you 100% right there.
Right.
All right. So let's talk about then the brand that is you, right? Like you have gone out here and you figured it out, right? Like you figured out how to put that brand out there. Talk to me a little bit about what you've got going on from your brand standpoint. I know. Listen, you've got your organizations that you're doing. You're doing. You're a frequent guest on what is it? I am athlete tonight, right? Like you've been
Right.
going on there a lot. Talk to me a little bit about stuff that you got going on right now.
Well, I love, I love doing I Am Athlete with them when the guys are in town. I think I'm gonna be doing one in December when they're in Atlanta, and then I'm a guest host every week on I Am Athlete Tonight, which is
Hmm.
fun. Get on, chop it up with the guys, and talk trash to them, and so I have fun doing that. At some point at the beginning of next year, we're gonna launch Auntie's House, which is my own podcast, and
I did
and
hear about that. Looking forward to it.
yeah, so we're gonna have a lot of fun with that, and it's gonna be that different kind of, I'm crazy, so if folk come on my show, like they got to be prepared. We gonna talk about some controversial type stuff, but uh, right now finishing up a book, and just enjoying my time at Nike, and loving what I'm doing, loving the family. Um, and so yeah, we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to Auntie's house. I did read something about that. So I was like, okay, let me see what she got going on over here. Because again,
Right.
I listened to I Am Athlete Tonight and I hear you on there. And I was like, oh, she don't pull no punches, right? She was like,
Absolutely not.
listen, That's that Pennsylvania swag coming out right
Come on, come
there.
on. I'm always gonna show up with. I'm always gonna show up as me, right? Because
Okay.
can't be anybody else because everybody else is already taken. And so,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm gonna be me. And if people don't like me, it is what it is. They can call me whatever they want. I say, but as long as you put doctor in front of it, you can call me
Hey,
whatever you want.
hey, there it is. Listen, listen. They could find someplace else to go listen, and they don't have to turn
Right,
into you if you don't like it. That's how I
right,
feel about our channel. Like people, I don't like how I don't listen. Hey, it's a lot of other people talking Auburn sports. You go listen to them. So
right.
anyway, so let's talk some real talk then about Auburn sports and what we
Come
got
on.
going on right now. So which sport do you want to start with? You want to start with women's basketball? You want to start with football? You want to start with
No,
men's
we gotta start with
basketball?
football. We
All
gotta
right, let's
start with football.
all right. Well,
Absolutely.
let's talk about football then.
Okay.
Just got rid of a coach, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
A lot of money being thrown out the door to get rid of football coaches in the last few years.
Right, right,
Um, but our guy, Coach Caddy, interim status right now. How are you
right,
feeling about first and foremost the football program and where we are? And
right.
what are your thoughts on Carnell Williams, interim head football coach for Auburn University?
Well, before I get to everything great that is Carnell, I know Carnell, and we were actually in school together.
Mm-hmm.
When I was getting my PhD, he was getting his master's, and so we could talk about him later. But let's just address the elephant in the room. At the end of the day, the problem isn't with the coaches at Auburn,
Mm-hmm.
right? The problem isn't with recruiting. The
Mm-hmm.
problem isn't with money.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is these damn boosters don't know how to get out of their own way.
So
And
when I say that, people say I'm crazy, but you can talk your talk right
uh,
now, Auntie. Let me
yeah, I
let
don't,
you talk.
and I don't care.
All right.
So, at the end of the day, we have people who feel like, okay, if I give you a check, that means that's you deserve my opinion all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
not only my opinion, but you have to understand that with this check becomes the fact that my opinion is law.
Mm.
And that's not how the way it should be.
Yeah.
Not only for internally, but externally. Who wants to come and coach an Auburn team that they get absolutely no, they have to do it with their hands behind their back.
Mm.
Nobody can coach any sport without any hands. Like,
Mm.
it's impossible.
Right.
And so the BOT, they just got to get out of people's way, and get out of their own way. I'm so happy that John Cohen is in town, and he
Okay.
seems like a no nonsense guy. Immediately made Caddy the head coach. Love it. I don't have I didn't have a problem with Gus Malzahn. I didn't think he was a very good people person.
Hmm.
Um, and so, the fact that he's gone, yeah, I think we paid him too much to leave, but we were paying him too much to begin with. And
Hmm.
so, that's on them. With Coach Harson, I don't think that Brian was a bad coach,
Hmm.
right? His success at Boise State um cannot be understated. Like, he had success out there. True, different concert, I mean different conference and things like that, but he still had success.
Right.
Um, and but the problem with Coach Harson is I don't think he was a good coach for Auburn,
Okay.
right? When you want somebody to come join your family, you gotta make sure that they're a right fit for your family,
For sure.
right? Not just necessarily for your daughter or your son, right? They gotta make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're gonna fit into the whole family.
Mm.
And he just wasn't Auburn. I see what Caddy's doing, and how he's invigorating not just the football players, not just his staff, not just the administration, but the fans.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I'm not hearing any of, I know it's only been a week, but I'm not hearing anything from the board of trustees.
Hmm.
They're not talking about Caddy, which I love it.
Right.
Let this young man come in, and you could tell how much he loves Auburn.
Hmm.
Coaching experience, not a lot. We know
Right.
that. But you can tell he cares about Auburn. And if he cares about Auburn, and nobody wants Auburn to lose less than a former player.
Hmm.
Nobody.
Right.
And so why not, make him in charge? And look, I personally, my number one choice I think would be Dion. However, I like Kiffin, I like Q Freeze, but I also think let's see what Caddy does these last 3 games.
Hmm.
Because if he messes around and wins this
Right.
weekend, then they beat, Missouri. I mean, then they beat Missouri, then they beat, you know,
Western
Norfolk, yeah,
Kentucky.
Western Kentucky,
Hmm.
um, and then they mess around and beat Bama. I mean, if he beats Bama, we become eligible for a bowl game, like, I mean, you gotta give him the job.
Hmm.
But, having there's great, official visitors are coming in town. We got a couple 4 stars, a
Hmm.
5-star coming in town.
Hmm.
So, let them do it. Let Caddy do what he does. He's always been like this. He has always been a great teammate, a great guy, and an Auburn man. To be
Hmm.
honest, the last time we had an Auburn man coaching.
Yeah. Been a long time. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, maybe that's what we need, and so I just look forward to it, it's gonna be a tough game this weekend, against Texas A&M, but, a lot of his boys are coming back and gonna support him on the sideline, and, my
I'm looking
advice,
forward to it. I'm gonna be there.
right, I mean, I hit him up and I was like, "Look, Caddy, hey, like the shirt says, go crazy.
Yeah.
You don't have nothing to lose." Like, he don't have anything to lose. Like, if the new if they don't hire Caddy, if they don't hire Caddy and hire someone else, and that person doesn't keep Caddy on the staff, then we've hired the wrong person anyway.
Tragedy.
Mhm.
Tragedy. I felt the same way about T. Will. I thought it was crazy that T. Will didn't get an opportunity to remain on the Harsin staff, but
It's a little different between T. Will.
mm, mm,
It was there were some things I think maybe T. Will would have wanted to do or say differently,
mm-hmm,
behind closed doors, while he was here.
mm. Now, listen, I've
But
heard a lot, but I feel
uh,
you. Yeah, but
but
I just
he presented a threat to Harsin, and Harsin didn't want anybody on his staff that presented a
yeah,
threat. So, he couldn't get rid of Caddy, like,
yeah,
can't get rid of one of our best running backs of all time and
yeah.
former player. Like, no, you can't do that. So, I wasn't a I wasn't a fan of Harsin for Auburn. I wish him well in what he does, but, I love the fact that I'm excited about Auburn football again.
That's the key
And
right there. A lot of
mhm,
people are excited about it again, and we
right.
just haven't felt that in a while.
And if you think about it, right? Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have two sisters and a brother.
Okay, so, when if they're playing any sports or whatever, you really want them to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you go and watch them play, the first thing you don't think about is, okay, is their team gonna win, right? You think about it. When you go see your family play, the first thing you think about is one of your own, your family member doing well.
Right.
And that's not saying that we should get used to losing, because obviously none of us want to lose,
Mm-hmm.
but because Auburn is family, it's not about winning and losing anymore. It's about making sure and wanting Caddy and the guys to do well, to play well, and the wins are gonna come. And so, that's I get that Auburn feeling, and I haven't had that in years. I probably haven't had that since 2010.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing about it. If Cohen decides to go with Cadillac, I just hope they have the patience for the process, and that's the only thing I worry about
Mhm.
with him getting the job is that it tarnishes the brand that is Cadillac right now because if he doesn't win immediately, he becomes synonymous with that, and that's I don't want that for him. I want him to be able to grow into with some grace. So
Right,
hopefully they'll have the grace to do that sort of thing. But we'll see. But to your point, got to keep him on the staff regardless of who the
right.
next head coach is, whether he's head coach or
Nobody's
something else.
right, and let's not get this twisted. Nobody's coming in and winning right away at Auburn.
Right.
I mean,
It's gonna be
our
rough.
the talent just isn't. We're not very talented on our offensive line,
Right.
and Austin Trostle went down to. We'll lose Tank after this year.
Hmm.
We'll lose probably Kobe Wooten. We'll lose Derek Hall.
Hmm.
We'll lose Owen Papo. And so and I don't even know who plays behind them. Uh, so we're gonna struggle a little bit. So whoever the coach is, I hope that expectations not are low, but I hope they aren't unrealistic.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Just have realistic expectations and don't. And on the flip side, right? And I think this was the thing that hurt Coach Malzahn was his early success set a precedent that he couldn't maintain, right? Like he had
Right,
early success, and people were like, "Oh, we're going to be competing for championships every year," and it's just like
right,
that's not really the state of where the program. Well, they caught lightning in a bottle
right,
2013 and got to the national championship game, but we weren't in a place as a program that could compete
right.
perennially, and so
Because
people's
he couldn't
expectations
recruit.
got out of whack.
Yeah, he was a horrible recruiter.
Yeah,
He was a horrible recruiter,
his talent
and Harsin
evaluation
was
was terrible.
worse. Har
Yeah, no,
Harsin
yeah,
was even worse.
yeah,
Malzahn could recruit the best quarterbacks, but he couldn't do anything when they were here.
yeah,
And so, he didn't do anything to Nick Marshall. Nick Marshall did that himself.
yeah. Nick Marshall's just a
Um,
phenomenal athlete.
right. He went out and found he's the reason that Cam Newton came to Auburn, but he ain't the reason that Cam Newton was a Heisman and
No, Cam was gonna be
All-American
Cam
player of the year.
wherever
Like
he
he was
went.
going to win anyway.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I'm excited to see the games and I'm excited about Auburn football again.
okay, all right. So I mean, I feel you. We're in the same. We're in alignment right there. So let's shift. Which one do you want to knock down first? You want to go to the women's side, or you want to go to the men's side on the hardwood?
Let's talk about them women.
Okay, Johnny Harris, year two.
Hmm.
They got them a W last night. Looked pretty good. Like a lot of
Right.
young players. The thing I'm excited about before I let you talk about it is I like that Coach Harris came in with a very concrete vision of what she wanted her basketball team to look like. And she recruited to that vision in the offseason. And now she's got some depth on the team so that they can get their rotations together. I'm looking forward to seeing the brand of basketball that Coach Johnny Harris is going to bring. But how are you feeling about the women's basketball team right now?
Absolutely. And Johnny inherited a mess.
Yeah,
It was a mess. Just the culture just wasn't right. And Johnny, you know, even though she's not from Auburn, even though she didn't go to Auburn, she seems to understand the Auburn spirit.
mm,
The first game, who do you bring in to talk to your players? Bring in Caddy. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, why not bring in somebody who you just saw people run through a wall for? One thing about Johnny is she's always been known as a really, really, really good recruiter.
she has. Yeah,
She did at Mississippi State. I mean, she did it everywhere she was, and so, um, I'm excited for them. I'm excited I'm gonna head down and see a game or two either here in November or December when I'm in Atlanta, and I just want to see them. I like the little swag that they got, and so I'm excited to see them play.
yeah, yeah. I'm definitely going to try to do a better job of checking some of the women's basketball games out this season. We're probably going to cover it a little bit more on the channel. We're trying to get Coach Harris to come on the channel, so you see this Coach Harris, come
Come
holler
on,
at me.
coach.
Yeah, let's
Mhm.
make it happen. But all right, so who you think from that team is gonna be a standout performer?
Mm, that's a good one. I don't know yet.
Yeah, I
It's
don't I
too
don't know
for
enough
me. It's
about
too
him. Yeah,
early.
yeah,
For me, it's too early. I and I look forward not to just seeing them play. I can answer this question after I see them practice
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I want to see how you practice. I
Right.
don't care how you play. I want to see how you practice.
Hmm.
Because if you practice harder than you play, that's who I think is going to be, successful. They you know, they had a kid, and I forget her name. They had a kid who just dominated yesterday. Um, what 25 points, 14 rebounds, um, or something like that. I mean, she uh, she balled out, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be who wants it the most on that team. I'm so excited to I'm excited. I'm excited to watch them play. I'm excited to you know to see them rock and roll and uh you know I think if I'm gonna say one name, it's probably gonna be what
So
is
the
it?
player you're referring
Asia
to,
Koulibaly?
Koulibaly, that's who you were talking
Yeah,
about. But
Asia
yeah,
Koulibaly,
she
yeah.
had 24, 10, and let me see. She had 24 points, 10 rebounds last night in that game.
Nice. I mean, and you think I mean, Sanaya Wells is always gonna be a hooper and, um, you have, you know, Honesty's always Honesty's a vet on that team and,
Hmm.
she's gonna ball out too, but we're gonna see. Give me about a month
Okay.
and I'll come back on and we'll talk some more about it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the trajectory of that team. They got a couple of big wins last year. Hopefully they can level out a little bit where it's not a coincidence that you're beating Tennessee, right? Like you're
Right.
actually in all of your games coming up. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So let's flip it over to the men's side then, and let's talk a little bit
Come
about
on.
that team. Going to be a very different basketball list team without two uh draft picks, right? Coming off of that
Mhm.
squad. How are you feeling about the men's basketball team and where they are right now? Only one game into the season, so again,
I
real
think
little early to judge, but
that I think there's good and bad.
hmm.
One, love the job that Coach Pearl's doing. I mean, he's a salesman
Mm,
and he's selling that team. And that team could be 0 and 30 and he'll still have that team believing that they can win the national championship. Um, Last year, uh, you were more talented. I think they were more talented last year than they are this year. Uh, you know, I mean, you have the number 3 overall pick and then Walker Kessler, who's incredible, coming off the bench out there in Utah. Um, it was just different.
right.
But this year's team, I believe, has more swag.
Oh, for
With Johnny
sure.
Broome coming in, they have more swag. And I think that's gonna help them a lot, especially at home.
Hmm.
Now, the 2 things that I worry about, one is the reverse of that swag, is they seem to be a very, very emotional team,
True.
and it's something I said a little bit last year, with JD uh, it's so emotional, and you wanna be an emotional player, right? But you don't wanna go so high that your lows are crazy low,
Yeah.
and that kind of emotional, I don't know, what do I wanna call it? Curve,
Mm,
um, can hurt you on the road. If things aren't going well, and now you can't play it up to the crowd because they're
right.
not even your crowd. And so I worry about that. But perhaps, my biggest concern is they gotta be they gotta be some we gotta get some shooters.
Yeah.
I
They can't
mean,
shoot. Like it's
we
just
can't
it is what
we
it is. They can't shoot, man.
we
They are
can't
terrible from free throw line. They're terrible from 3-point line. It's just not
absolutely.
good. It's
You're
not
not
good.
gonna win an SEC. We're not gonna win the SEC title shooting 30% from the point line and the free throw line. Like
Yeah.
you're not. But if anybody can get them, it's Coach Pearl, and I get a lot of flack when I get on the bunker and I say his teams aren't very disciplined but I believe that. But I believe it's organized chaos.
Hmm.
He lets them play undisciplined, which doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But at some point, you got to get in the gym. You got to shoot. You got to
Yeah.
shoot the ball because that's gonna hurt. Um, you know, but they're saying that they're not picking us to lose until we go to LSU. So I think
But
we'll
I mean,
see.
this team defensively is like all of that frenetic pace that you talk about and the just wildness. That's what helps them play the kind of defense that
Absolutely
they play because they're gonna go out there. They're gonna take chances. They're gonna
right.
play reckless and they're gonna be disruptive on the defensive end of the floor. But yeah, they just got to figure out how to fill it. If they could just shoot free throws better, I think I'd feel a lot better about this team. Just because if you're going to be able to get to or play the way that you do, like a KD Johnson does, you're going to get to the free throw line a lot. You just
Right.
got to make
Right.
them. When you get there, you
Right.
got to make them. So if
Right.
you can be that kind of team that's going to survive off of good defense, we're going to, play ball control on offense, and we're not, hopefully, don't take a lot of early bad shots. You can take some bad shots, just don't take them too early in the shot clock and get to the free throw line. You can choke the clock out. You limit the other team from scoring, and then you can get your points in transitioning from the free throw line. But they gotta shoot better free throws. Got to.
Right. Right.
Uh, Anyway, I can sit here and talk ball all day. I love football, but basketball is the thing that I grew up loving the most. But I could talk your
It's the
ear off
opposite
about
for me.
really.
Yep. I always loved football.
Yeah.
I grew up a Pittsburgh Steeler fan
Okay.
um, you know, played flag football in Atlanta and
I
I
did
mean
see that. I saw you had a little flag football going on. Yeah.
yeah, I love football. Basketball paid the bills and it paid for me to get a couple degrees.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm kind of a football. I'm a football girl.
Hey, listen, I ain't mad at it. I say I love football too, but I was a basketball player when I was younger. I just
Mm.
ain't had no knees. Um, but yeah. So
Knock
all
on
right.
wood. I never had any problems with my knees.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. Mhm.
Well, the only other thing I want to do before I let you get out of here, and I appreciate again you giving us some time today to talk to the people, is just
Cool.
tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you have going on. Well, hold on, wait a minute. Before I get into all of that, in doing some research to have this conversation, I had no idea that you were a part of the True record for No Limit. I didn't know that. I didn't know how did that even come to. I know. So let me see if I can piece it together based upon just reading random stuff. You were signed with P when you started your professional career, right?
Mhm.
So, but how did that translate into getting into the studio on getting on a record? So tell me about that.
Well, I always loved music. I was always intrigued by the theme song from Halloween. And so, it was the season before or after my first year. And I went to Pennsylvania and I bought this little beat machine. It was called a DR5. And I started playing with it. Loved how it sounded. I've always played music my whole life on the keys. And so I was like, man, I think it'd be dope. Let me just try something with this Halloween beat. I
Mm,
mean, theme song. And so I did it. Uh, and so then, every day I would tell my sister, "What do you think about this? What do you?" And I would change like one note. She would
hmm,
get so mad at me. And then when P and No Limit Sports called me and said, "We want to fly you down to Louisiana, see what you think about our operations." I was like, "Cool." I'm like, "Man, if I'm going to see Master P, let me take this beat machine because I wanted
okay.
to do the beat on the plane." So we got in. I talked to him. We did everything, and then I was like, "Yo, P, why don't you hear something, listen to something for me?" Not thinking anything, whatever. I said, I think it's dope, but what do you think? And so he listened to it, and obviously no reaction at all. He didn't even bob his head. So I'm thinking, oh, he don't like it. He don't like it. And he was like, it's cool. And he pushed it back to me. So, we signed the contracts, and then later we all went to go play basketball. And then on the way home, P was like, "Yo, I'm gonna come scoop you up in a couple hours. We're gonna go to the studio. You want to go with us?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to go to the studio. Like, I want to see what y'all do."
All right.
And he was like, "Oh, by the way," as I was getting out of the car, he's like, "Yo, bring that little beat machine with you."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Okay, maybe he liked the sound or something in there." And so we go into the studio and I gave him the beat machine and then, they started playing with it and started liking it and chopping it up and doing some things and I was too tired. Like I was too tired to stay in there. Went back home to the hotel. Next day, I'm like, "P, what do you think?" He was like, "It was cool. It was cool." He's like, "I think we're gonna use it." And I was like,
Mm.
"Bet." So then he broke me some bread and then but he wouldn't let me hear it. He was like, I'm not gonna let you listen to it until it comes out on the radio. Until you hear it on the radio, then you'll know it. That gotta be part of the contract." And I'm like, "You know what?" I'm like, "This Master P. Like, and he wants one of
Right.
my beats, like you do whatever you want."
Right.
And so yeah, it was one day I was sitting in the car and all of a sudden, it came on and I was like, and then C Murder had hit me up and was like, "Yo, make sure you listen to the song really, really well." And so I did. And so in the third verse, he says my name and then I just went crazy. And
Hold on. I
so
gotta go back and listen to the song again now
yeah,
because
he
I don't
says in
think
a
I caught
pound.
that.
Yeah, he said in a pound, put it down with my girl Chantel, and um,
Oh, okay.
so
Got you.
yeah, so it was pretty dope. And then the first time I heard it in the club, and the club went crazy. I just smiled like, yo, that's my beat right there. So
Yeah.
probably should have done more with music growing up, but who knows? Maybe you'll hear the theme music for Auntie's house will be something I produced.
Okay, listen, that'll be dope, man. So listen, I'm looking forward to that. So
Appreciate it.
um definitely listen, you've done things in film, you've done things in music, you've done things on the court, off the court, accomplished, listen, educationally, doctor, right? Like I ain't we don't play with it, right? Like let them know what the business is.
Love it.
But just how can people keep up with what you got going on, and what things do you really want people to kind of gravitate towards that you're doing right now?
You know what? To be honest, what depends what happens in the next week. I may not be on Twitter for a while. I might, it's just a lot of I just see so much
Yeah.
negativity coming out on Twitter. It's just ridiculous. And I may take a break for a minute. I'm not sure, but I'm always on TikTok at Auntie Chantel and on Instagram at Chantel Trim. They can follow me. They can head to my website, chanteltremitiere.com, and they can always. I don't read all my DMs, but if I catch one, um, I'll hit somebody back, and yeah, we'll just gonna continue to watch Auburn and
Yeah.
wish luck to Caddy and everybody. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, have fun.
Nah, it's been a blast. I appreciate you taking some time to talk with me today. All right, y'all know what it is, man. We are here building rapport style. Thanks again to Dr. Chantel Tremitiere for coming through, talking to us a little bit about her time at Auburn and all the things that she's got going on. You know how to keep in touch with us. TheWarReport.com has all of the stuff that we've got, but you can follow us on social media at The War Report. We are TW Report on TikTok. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle, War Report out.